Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott talking JavaScript with you, courtesy of Murox JavaScript 2nd edition. I do want to mention to you we're in Chapter 3 now, and I have moved to the basement of my house where the acoustics aren't nearly as nice, but I'm going to be going over as much as I can do right now from there. So if the sound isn't quite as good, I apologize in advance. All right, so given the skills for a JavaScript app that requires what we've learned thus far, code, test, and debug an application. Describe the rules for evaluating a conditional expression, including the use of NaN, or is NaN, which for is not a number. Describe a common error when coding the equality operator. Describe the flow of control of an if statement that has both if and else clauses. Describe the two ways that you can code a conditional expression that tests whether a Boolean variable is true. Describe the flow of control of a while, do while, and for loop. Describe the use of a JavaScript array, including its use for an index and length property. Describe the use of a for loop in an array. All right, this is a big chapter, and there's a lot of stuff in it. Not voluminous as far as the size, but okay, this is what I'm going to do. First thing I'm going to do is pause this because the earlier examples that I had written for you, I have on my flash drive, which unfortunately I left upstairs. But what I'm going to do is, rather than just go through everything that they show in the book, I'm going to start writing a series of programs for you. And I'm going to try to do something where I think it's fairly easy for people to understand. When we first start, now I'll build this in stages, but when we first start, I'll suppose that a person can work at a job. We don't worry about overtime as we start, and what we'll do is we'll input that person's hours worked and hourly rate, multiply one by the other, and we'll get their gross pay. Okay, we'll just keep it simple like that to begin with. So again, I'm going to pause this so I can go up and grab the earlier copies, the other stuff that I have. So all right, as we continue on, two things I want to mention to you. The first is, since I am in my basement, the phone may ring at any time. If it does, I have to get out of where I am, get back in where I can pause the video. So if you hear a phone, I apologize in advance. So that's the first thing. Second thing, what I did was I copied over the stuff that I had done earlier from Chapter 2. And what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to open this. I've just renamed it Payroll 01. So I'm going to get rid of everything that's in here for main. Just everything. So that'll be my main. And then over here, I'm going to change this. And of course, I'm going to call it Payroll 01. All right. Run program is fine. And Payroll 01. I'm not at all concerned about the interface here. So that's why all I'm putting in here is the button. Okay. So let's just put a comment at the top. Again, let's put a multi-line comment. And I'm going to put here first iteration of a JavaScript payroll program. In this first example, I'm doing this all off the top of my head, I really and truly am. Input a worker's hours worked and hourly rate, no OT. Multiply the hours worked by the hourly rate to get the gross pay. Display all input and output values. All input variables and input and output variables. All right, I'll just leave it like that. That looks fine. So for right now, I'm going to keep everything still in main. So I'll have here var hours worked. I'm going to use the camel case, and I'm going to initialize it to 0.0. And it'll be hours worked. Var hourly rate, and I'll make that 0.0. And again, I'll put in here hourly rate. Var gross pay, which I'll also make equal to 0. And you already know this, but that will be hours worked times hourly rate. All right. This will allow me to demonstrate a lot of the stuff that's in this chapter and stuff in upcoming chapters. We'll keep refining this example as we go on. All right. So I'm going to say here hours worked equal, we'll make this a parsed float because it's possible you work part of an hour, prompt, enter hours worked, and let's just default it to 40 hours. That'll be fine. Hourly rate, we'll parse float on that because again you can make, not everybody makes a whole number per hour, so parse float, again prompt, enter hourly rate. Alright, so the idea is after we've done this, we'll default it at $15 an hour. Alright, again, there's no overtime or anything, so the gross pay will just be equal to the hours worked times the hourly rate. And what we said in here was we wanted to document dot write, and you might say there's things missing. That's what we're going to be adding in the chapter here. All right, hours worked plus hours worked plus \n, so then we're going to have a new line here, plus hourly rate plus hourly rate. Again, I better close that off. That's why it looks, the color is funny on here. Plus, again, another \n, and please remember I can do this either with single quotes or double quotes. It doesn't matter. Gross pay, and for that one, let's put in, we'll put in a $sign here. Plus gross pay, and I'm going to say here .to fixed, which means I want it to 2 decimal places. Right there. That's what that means. Alright, so that's everything. That's the whole program. Not much in there. So we're declaring 3 variables. They're all numeric variables, and they all can contain a value of the decimal place. The program is pretty well self-documented. So I can put here input hours worked and hourly pay. Pretty obvious what's going on there. Calculate gross pay. And maybe I'm going a little nuts here with the comments, but better too many than not enough. All right. output all variables, which pretty much is what we were told to do up here. All right. So I'm going to save this, go back to my payroll 1. Hopefully I didn't make any mistakes, but we'll see if I did. That's a good start. Run. If it doesn't come up, then I missed a paren or something. Knowing me, I probably missed a paren. So let's check. Yes, I did. I missed 2 of them. One nice thing about Notepad++, notice red and red, it shows me. So hopefully that's all that I forgot, were those 2 parentheses. All right, let's go back again and run it one more time, or try to run it one more time. All right, I'll just leave the defaults in there. Enter hours work, 40. Enter hourly rate, 15. Hours work, 40, hourly rate, 15, gross pay, 600. You see that I need some \n's in there, but that's okay. We'll fix that. All right, and if I have \n's in there already, then I need BR tags. Either way, it's okay. All right, it gave me the right answer. So let's look. Yep, so these need to be BR tags. And believe me, I always forget which is the BR and which is the \n. So let's try running it one more time. We'll again keep the defaults, 40, 15, and there you go. All right. And again, I'm just using the simple stuff that's shown in the book, like the document.write, etc. So there's our first iteration, and I'm going to end up copying that and make several iterations of this as we go on. This, you've been warned, this is going to be a long lecture. All right, so we've got double equals, which you check for equality. We've got an exclamation point followed by an equal sign, which means not equal, less than or equal to, or greater than or equal to. Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a second iteration. So I'm going to go back to my code again. All right. And in fact, I'm going to just take this and close it. And I've got that. That'll be okay. Let's take my folder here. It's called JPS, and now there's Payroll01 JS, and let's make another folder in here. We'll call this Payroll01. Okay, and I'm going to grab this, and I'm going to move it there. Then I'm going to copy that entire folder. So I've already got this done, but I'm going to call it Payroll02. Okay, which means I'm going to go back into here and change this 01 to a 02, change this 01 to a 02. All right, then let's open both these. Now I'll have to make some superficial changes, like that'll have to be 02, and that'll have to be 02. Okay? All right. Now I'm just going to keep adding to my documentation here. So now I'm going to say, suppose that max hours worked is 50, min hours worked is 0, max hourly rate is, let's just assume nobody can make more than $50 an hour, and min hourly rate is 0. A person could, I guess, technically be, they could be a volunteer. Okay. Now, many languages, including this one, allow you to create what are called program constants. These are variables. They start with var. But you can also create constants. Now, I will tell you this is going to look a little funky, but I just want you to know that older versions of browsers may not recognize what I'm about to put in here. Okay, they may not recognize it. So I'm going to put in the word const, which means constant, and I'm going to have first min hours. And we said the minimum number of hours you can work is 0. All right, and so that'll be minimum hours worked. Well, and for the next one, since it's everything, but it's just max, I'm just going to just copy this 4 times. So I'm going to have min hours, max hours, come on, and I'm going to have min rate and max rate. So those are my constants. So that'll be minimum hours worked, maximum hours worked, minimum hourly rate, and maximum hourly rate. Now please look at that, all right, and ask the instructor if you have any questions. All right, so now when I put this in, okay, first thing I want to do is basically I want to read this like this, but if the value they put in is non-numeric, so if they put in a non-number, or if they put in a number that's less than 0, or they put in a number that's greater than, what did we say was our, of course these shouldn't all be 0. I think we said max hours was 50, and I think we said that the max, did we say the max rate was 50 as well? 50, good. Okay. All right. So we have to check now to make sure that they fall within range. Okay. Well, so there I'm inputting my stuff, but after I input, then I want to do what's called validate. All right. For instance, if a person is very young looking, my oldest daughter still looks pretty young, even though she's 25. When we go visit her, she lives out near St. Louis, but when we go out and visit her, and we take her out to eat, she might have a drink, and she always gets carded. They're validating that her age is legal age, and that's what we're going to do here. So, validate hours worked, and we want to make sure it's between 0 and 50. All right, now I'm going to actually use here the constants, but right there I just left them off. So I'm going to say while, and I'm going to say what can happen here. While hours worked is less than min hours, which is saying if I put in a number that's less than 0, or, and we're going to go over all this stuff, so don't let it bother you, or if, I guess I do want it there, if hours worked is greater than max hours, all right, or is NaN hours worked So I think I don't need this one, and I don't need this one. All right, so what in English, what this is saying is, if we entered a figure for hours worked that was less than 0, this double bar here means or if we entered an amount for hours worked that was greater than 50, or we put something in here that was not even numeric. All right, so if any of that stuff happens, all I'm going to do is I'm going to basically ask them to do it again. Now, I could come up with an error message, but I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do this. I'm going to grab that, and I'm going to paste it in. What that should do then, what that should do is that should verify that when I get down to here, that I put in a numeric value for hours worked. And the reason for that is, if I didn't, it's going to catch it up here and ask me to do it again. So let me save this, and even though we're far from done here, I'm going to run it again. Oops, that's what happens when you try to run your JavaScript instead of running your HTML. It just shows on screen. So, run program. Okay, since nothing came up, I've got an error message, which means, again, typically it's a thing with parentheses. So there's that one. Okay, it looks like I've got an extra paren right there. Let's double check. There, 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 there. Okay. Hopefully that was the only error that I had. So again, run. Nope, I don't want to run the JavaScript. Run Chrome. All right, enter the hours of work. Let's leave it blank. Okay, didn't like that. Well, there's a problem right there. Let's put in a number that's a negative number. Okay. It asked us to do it again. That's a good sign. How about a number that's greater than 50? It asked us to do it again. That's a good sign. All right, it just didn't like our non-numeric. Hello. So that's still blowing up. So we'll have to look at that. That's because it's is-n-a-n with a little n. See how the color changed? I had it like this, which was incorrect. See how it's all black? All right. My mantra has basically become over the years, the answer's in the code, because if you screw up, the answer's somewhere in the code. So let's try it one more time. You already saw this, but -9, and it just asks you to re-enter. 55, and it asks you to re-enter. Hello, and it asks you to re-enter. So we've got that. So let's keep it at 40. We'll just leave this all the way it is. That's fine. So now we want to do the same kinds of checks, but we want to do the same checks that we're doing here for, validating the hours worked. We want to now validate the hourly rate. So this will change here. I'm going to put a comment up here that says input hourly pay, and that shouldn't be pay, I guess it's hourly rate. Be consistent with your names here. It makes it much easier for you when you're going through here. All right, I'm just going to steal all this code here. If I keep typing and typing, it's just this is just going to be too long of a lecture. So I now want to validate, but I've got to change this. So I want to validate the hourly rate. So that'll become hourly rate, hourly rate, hourly rate, and this will be min rate. And this will be max rate. All right, and one more thing. We just settled, and now the max rate is no longer 50, it's now 75. All right. So 75 is now the maximum rate. All right. So hourly rate, so this has got to go back to hourly rate also, so that should be this line right here. So now I'm doing the same thing with the hourly rate. I'm telling them to input it. All right, and it's, again, if it's less than 0 or it's greater than 75, or it's not numeric, I'm asking them to do it again. So let's double check and see if that one worked. We've already checked our hours worked. So this check, I'm just going to put a valid value. Oops. I'm going to put a valid value in there for hours worked. All I care about checking right now is hourly rate. So I'm just going to leave the default here. 40 is fine. But now I want to try to put in something that's less than 0. And you can see that it asks me to re-enter and is greater than 75. And again, it asks me to re-enter. If I leave it blank, it asks me to re-enter. If I put in something that's non-numeric, it asks me to re-enter. All right, so 15. Again, the stuff is out there. That's all cool. All right. The only thing I want to mention to you is right here, let's say that we didn't want to check here. Let's just say for whatever reason, we wanted to say if hourly rate is equal to min rate. Then we use two equal signs. One equal sign means assign, two equal signs means check for equality. All right, so keep that in mind as we're going through here. So that's, now we've got our second iteration of our payroll program is now done. All right, and mapping it up within here, I've shown you then, I just told you, I didn't really show you, but I more told you about the double equal sign. There's the not equal. We use the less than and we use the greater than in here. So you've seen those. I also have shown you now the is NaN, not a number. And I showed you the or. For an or, if you do something like this condition, or both. With an and, this condition must be true, and this condition must be true. So or is a double pipe sign. That's holding down on the shift key and tapping the key that's right above your enter key. All right, with a backslash. The and is two ampersands, and the not, which is the negator, is the exclamation point. So not true means false, not false means true type of an idea. All right, so again, both tests of an and must be true. At least one test of an or must be true, and a not negates. All right, so we've looked at a couple of these operators. Here's an if statement. You already have had one of these. All right. In fact, maybe we didn't have one of those. Let's look. I think we just had the while loop. Nope, we don't have any ifs in there. All right. Now, this gross pay should always be numeric by the time you get down here. But let's say we wanted to be just extra special. I could say if if it's what that's saying is, as long as there is a gross pay in there that's numeric, we don't care what it is, but as long as it's numeric, print this out. So what I'm showing you here, not very well maybe, but what I'm showing you here is the syntax for an if statement. So if the condition is true, do this stuff. And in English, what this is saying is, if this is numeric, print out all the stuff. All right? What if it wasn't numeric? What if I wanted to do something? What if I wanted to print out that it was an error? Then I'd say else document dot write an error has occurred. Okay, we don't have to say any more than that. Some kind of an error occurred. We don't know what it is. Now this should never get hit because this should always be numeric. But let's come back in here anyway and let's run it one more time. We'll keep all of the defaults in, 40, 15, and we get 600. That's good. That's what we're looking for right now. All right? So I've run several examples here and shown you how basically this should look as we're going in here. All right. Here's some examples that they give. If age is greater than or equal to 18, you may vote. Else, you're not old enough to vote. Again, look at the syntax. If you only have one statement in here like this and this, you don't need the curly braces. But put them in anyway. It's just a good idea to get started. You might as well start learning the right way. What if there are a bunch of choices? So here, this says if you put in something non-numeric, put in this. If you put in something negative, put in this. If you put in something greater than 12, put in this. Otherwise, this. So it's this, or this, or this, or this. The idea with an if is if the if is false, you do the else. If the if is true, you skip the else. And in here, it just looks for something that's true. So if that if is true, it skips everything else. If that if is false and this else if is true, it does this, then skips these. If that's false and this is true, it does this and skips this. If this is not true and that's not true and that's not true, it falls off and does this. And again, if that doesn't totally make sense to you, you'll have to take my word for it that it will after a while. Here we're combining a couple of conditions with or. So again, either one condition can be true or they can both be true. If they're both false, this alert won't print. But if either or both are true, it'll print that alert that you see right there. All right. I showed you this in the last chapter. But to say if is valid equal true, there's a shortcut. You can just say if is valid. I don't know why they put the extra spaces in there. I have no idea. And to say if is valid equal false is the same as saying if not is valid. All right? So we did look at a loop, and we actually looked at a while loop. You may not realize it, but we did in our program that we've just done here. This said, as long as any one of these conditions is true, either you put in a negative number or a number greater than 75 or something non-numeric, keep doing this. After you do this, come back up and check on what they just put in and see if it's still either less than 0, greater than 75, or non-numeric. If it is, do it again and check again. That's a while loop. I'm going to show you a really, really simple program in here. All right? And I'm going to put some code in here, and I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take all the code I've done so far in here, and I'm going to comment all of it out. You'll see why, hopefully, in just a minute. I'm going to comment it back in again, or uncomment it in just a minute. All right? But what I want to do is I want to show you the loops, JavaScript loops, printing the numbers from 1 to 10. First, with a while loop. All right, so I'm going to say here var number equals 1, while number less than or equal to 10 document dot write number equals, and then we'll concatenate onto that number. All right, now if I ran it like this, I would get into what's called an infinite loop, because it would say number's 1, yeah, that's less than 10, so write out number equal 1. Then it would come up again and it would say, well, that's 1, it's still less than 10, still less than 10. So I have to make sure when I use a while loop like this, if I'm going to do some processing like this, I've got to add 1 to number. Remember, a fast way to do that is to say number plus plus. All right, let's save this and run it and see if it works, and then come back and look at it some more. Oh, I forgot to put in my BR tags. So let's put that in first. Plus BR. Sorry about that. Oops. There we go. All right. So there we go. Number equal 1 through 10. That appears to have worked. So again, the way that we set this loop up, this is called loop control variable. In fact, sometimes in my programs, I call this LCV because it's a loop control variable. It's the variable that's controlling how many times I go through the loop. So I'm setting my loop control variable to 1, and I'm saying while it's less than or equal to 10, print out its current value, then add 1 to it. Now all I did was change the name of my variable, so notice if I run this again, it'll look exactly the same. So that's one way that I can write a loop. This kind of loop is called a pretest, because you test the value, you test this before you get into the body of the loop, and that's what's between the curly braces. If this is 11, give yourself a little test here. I'm sorry. If this is, instead of 10, if this is negative 10, what do you think is going to print here? Think about it. All right, and I'm going to run it. Nothing. That's not an error. Why? Because 1 is not less than or equal to negative 10. So if you're, this is called your initialization, this is your check, and this is your increment. You do the initialization, you make your check. If the check is true, you do the loop body. After you do the loop body, you check again. All right? So that works. But this is called a pretest loop because you make the check first. All right? Now, what if I did this? I'm going to grab all my code that I've got in there. I'm going to paste it back in again. You have to bear with me for a second. Now I'm putting the word do in here. Notice it's a do while, and I have to put a semicolon at the end there. Don't put one here, don't put one here, don't put one at the end of an if statement. But you need one here for a do while. This is called a pretest because you make the test at the beginning. This is called a post test because you make the test at the end. All right, so let's look, see if we run this. This stuff might almost run together, but it doesn't like it, so I must have made a mistake in here. Var LCV equals 1, while LCV less than or equal to 10. In fact, I should reset the value of LCV right here to 1 again. LCV equal 1. All right. So while it's less than or equal to 10, do this. Document.write number plus BR. That actually looks okay. So write it. Add 1 to it. All right. Well, it's less than or equal to 10. I don't know offhand where the error is in here. So let's try to run it again. There's definitely a problem. All right, well, it's less than or equal to 10. Resetting it here back equal to 1. Do while LCV. Well, let's see if we can segregate the problem. So is it in here? Is it in the code we just put in? So if I comment out the code we just put in and we run the program again, then it runs fine. So the error has to be in here. All right, so here I'm saying LCV equal 1. Let's leave that line in. So see how I'm commenting stuff in and out to see if it's going to help my program? Okay, so it's not there. That means that I know now it's got to be in here. All right. So number equals plus LCV plus number. That's the same as what we have there. So it shouldn't be there. LCV plus plus, curly brace, while LCV is less than or equal to 10 with a semicolon. This is surprising because as far as I can tell, let's do this. Let's make another loop control variable. So var, we'll call it LCV2. We'll set that equal to 1. Number is now going to be LCV2, 2, and do it while LCV2 is less than or equal to 10. Again, I'm looking in there, and I'm looking for something that looks syntactically incorrect, which means that I broke the rules of the language, and I don't see anything. Var LCV2 equal 1, do, while LCV2 is less than or equal to 10. Write it, and add 1 to it. There's definitely an error in there, though. Sometimes, not always, but sometimes what helps too is to literally just type everything in again. Do. Wait a minute. Wait. Nope. Do. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to remove what's there I'm going to remove all that, and I'm just going to do a document.write hello. With a BR on the end. Alright, in fact, let's put a BR at the beginning. Okay, so we'll put one at the end too, that's fine. So do this. Okay. Let's add one to our loop control variable. And let's say while LCV2 is less than or equal to 5. We'll just make it 5. I don't see anything that looks wrong here. That's got to be LCV2. Okay, let's see if it prints out hello 5 times. One, two, three, four, 5. Well, that's good. So it didn't like something that I keyed in there before. So let's change this. Instead of document.write like this, let's put in a BR and have it say, oops, have it say number equal, and we'll add to this LCV2. And I want to see in here if this is going to actually print the same thing out again. Okay, and that's to 5 because we told it to go to 5. But if we tell it to go to 10, and we save, and we go back and rewrite it, rerun it, okay, now it's working. So that's 2 different ways that you can loop through lines of code. This is again called pretest because you make the test at the top. This is called a post-test because you make the test at the bottom. So first with a while loop. Next with a do while loop. And then we're going to do one more here. Alright, and finally with what's called a for loop. Alright, now we don't need to declare this outside. We can just come right into our loop and we say for var LCV3 equals 1, LCV3 is less than or equal to 10, LCV3 plus plus. And then all we have to do in here is write out the value of LCV3. No while, no anything, no semicolon. Alright, so let's see now if we are now writing this out 3 times. 1, 2, and I guess I didn't have a line break at the beginning, but you can see what's going on. So that is all 3. That is all 3 of the. In fact, let's do this. We're going to put in between document.write. We'll just put in a BR tag here. And I'm going to put it, I'm going to grab this, copy that here, and also copy that here. Okay, let's see if that prettied it up a tad. There's our first, our second, and our third. Alright, so it looks good as far as I can tell. So these are the 3 mechanisms that you can use to write loops. I can't show you them all at the same time, but there's a while loop. You take and initialize your loop control variable, then you test it. If the test is true, you do what's in the body, which means between the curly braces. So you do this, then you change the value of your loop control variable, and then you come up and test it again. All right, but it's a pretest because the test is on top. The do while is the same virtually, except the test is at the bottom. So where this is known as a pretest loop, this is a post-test loop. This is a for loop. It's a counting loop. It knows we're going from 1 to 10. So it says go from 1 to 10, and each time through do this. But if you realize, when we did this first, we had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines of code. And 1, 2, 3, 4 lines of code. So many people like to use the for loop because it results in less code. All right? So I'm going to take this stuff that I just did here, and I'm going to comment that out. But you'll have it here then to take a look at. And I'm going to uncomment the stuff I did for our payroll program. So I'm going to get rid of that and this. Okay, so our payroll program is back, and this little interlude that we took to look at the different kinds of loops, that is now commented out. All right. So I went through the syntax of the while loop with you, and the syntax of the do while, and the syntax of the for loop. All right, here's another for loop example. As it says, it calculates what's called a future value investment. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with the program. Okay. It goes through, and notice it's telling it to loop in here. And it says that there are other ways this could have been calculated as well. But the point is, it's using a for loop. And I just went over a for loop with you. So hopefully that made some sense. So you should now understand an if statement, an if clause, which is the if itself, an else if clause, an else clause. You can put an if within an if. We'll look at that in a bit. You can make a while loop that has a while statement in it, a do while loop with a do while statement in it, a for loop with a for statement in it. The counter is what I called LCV. All right. So they come back now, and they're going to give you an updated version of the miles per gallon program. And let's just take a look at this. We're doing the very same stuff we did before, enter miles per gallon, but now we're parsing it. And then we're doing the gas used. But we're saying here is if you put in a number and the miles is greater than 0, and you put in a number for gallons and it's greater than 0, then do it. Otherwise, one or both entries are invalid. And notice this whole thing is inside of a do while loop, which is going to allow you to repeat the program as many times as you would like to repeat it. All right? And I was just thinking about this, and I'm going to actually put this program out there in just a second, but before I do, I'm going to do something else. I'm going to go back to the code we just had, and I don't like this being the way that it is, so I'm going to grab this code that's in here that is now commented out, and I'm going to cut it. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard, or it is already, and I'm going to put it out here, and I'm going to say here again, function main. Alright, have my curly brace, and that will be, now I can uncomment this, and I can uncomment this. This will be my ending curly. Alright, and I'm going to call this, I'll put it right in, is that my Payroll 2? Yes, it is. So instead of in Payroll 2, I'm just going to call this here, loop, L-O-O-P, loopfun.js. All right, loopfun.js. Okay, and then I'm going to grab my Payroll 2 HTML, and I'm going to save that up here, and I'm going to call this loopfun.html. That way you've got, okay, that way you've got an individual copy of this. So this will be loop fun. All right, let's run it, make sure that we get the right output still. Run program, there's our 3 sets. Okay, in fact, if I wanted to, I could have even come in here and said, let's see. This is a little overkill, but we'll put in here while loop, and we'll put in here do while loop, and we'll put on the bottom one, oop, that's a for loop, sorry. Put for loop there, and over here we'll put do while. Make it a little big. Okay, so while loop number, do while number, for loop number. Okay. Save this. Let's go back and run this one more time. All right, so there's the while, there's the do while, and there's the for. So you now have seen all of them. Okay. All right, so I can close my loop fun. And in fact, I think I can close everything. Payroll, probably want to save it. I hope I did. Okay, so let's go back to our PowerPoints here. All right, let's grab, this is their program for miles per gallon. I don't like the way that it was written. And it's not so much that it's terrible or anything, but what I want to do is I want to write this program and rewrite it so that it's in an external file. Okay, so I'm going to grab their code that's in here. This big do while loop that you see right here. All right, and I've lost, there we go. So I'm going to grab all that, copy it to the clipboard, and then I'm going to copy it here. But again, I want to make sure that I say function, oopsie, function main, and again, it doesn't have to be called main. But in many programming languages, that's what you use, so that's why I'm calling it that. All right, so all I want to do first is take everything that the author did here. Hit enter. So I want to take everything that the author did, and I'm just putting it into an external file. But we're going to pretty it up even more than that. Again, not my code. This is the author's code. Or again, actually I could have done that, should have done that. All right, that's good. So I now have this. I'm going to call this, I'm in here, and this will be mpg.js. Okay? mpg.js. So I'm also going to grab, all right, I'm also going to come in here and grab, where are we? This loopfun.html. I'm going to copy it to the clipboard. I'm going to paste it. Instead of calling it loopfun, I'm going to call this mpg. In fact, I'm going to call it mpg1.html. And this one, I'm going to change the JavaScript file name to mpg1.js. All right? No. All right. So this will become now mpg1. And this will be miles per gallon. All right, so let's run this. This is the author's. All I did was to pull out the JavaScript and put it in its own file. So 400 miles, 25 gallons. It should give me 16 to the gallon, and it does. Cool. Do I want to do it again? No. So it stops. Good. That's all good. So that's the first one. But now I want to close that, and I want to grab everything that the author did. So this and this. So I'm going to make MPG2. And this time, I don't like the way that the author did his validation. So I'm going to show you what I think, at least, is a better way of doing the validation. So let's open up these MPG2. And MPG2, I don't know how I got a Y in there, but I did. So let's open these two files up. All right. So this will have to change to MPG2, miles per gallon 2. All right, so that's done. This one, though, it's not, again, that the author did anything wrong. All right. All right, miles. Enter miles driven. I would have put a default value in there. Let's put in 200. All right. Gallons. Enter gallons used. I'll put a default value in there of 10. That way, if somebody doesn't enter something, it'll still work just fine. All right. Now, I don't like the fact that the author used check for everything here. I don't like that. So what I would have said is, as I showed you before, I would have come in here and said declare constants. And I would have said const min miles equal, let's say you have to drive at least a mile. Const max miles, and let's assume you can't drive more than 1,000 on your tank of gas or whatever it happens to be. All right, well, not 10,000, 1,000. All right, so I've got those. Again, I'm a little anal about this stuff. I like it to line up. So, and then let's have another constant. We'll call it min gals, or min gallons. Now, the standard is that if you create a constant, you put it in uppercase. You don't necessarily have to do that, but that's what people do. And the most gallons, so let's say that a minimum you're going to put in 1 gallon. And the most you can put in is 10, well, we'll make it 100. 100 gallons. Okay? All right, so what do we have here? Minimum miles driven maximum miles driven, minimum gallons used, and maximum gallons used. All right, so I've got my constants set up. All right, so here's my stuff. So now I'm just going to change this to if, and I'm going to change it from an if to a while. See, an if, they're validating here, but if you put in another number that's bad, all right, it's going to try to do something with it. So with a while loop, it keeps checking until you put in something valid. So while miles is less than min miles, or miles is greater than max miles, or is not a number miles. So that is going to handle the same kind of thing we handled before. In other words, that's going to say if either I put something in there that wasn't a big enough number, or I put something in there that was not numeric, period. So if that's the case, I'm just going to ask them to do it again. And here they did this as two things. Here they did the prompt and then they did the parse float. I think it's easier to just do it as one operation, which means you need another set of parentheses. So I think that's cleaner, which means I can get rid of this line. And I can do the same thing here. And again, I can get rid of the line at the end. And to make sure I can see it all, enter miles driven, enter gallons used. All right. So I've cleaned that up quite a bit. And I'm going to take this miles driven stuff, and I'm going to move it up here. All right. So I'm going to say here, input miles driven. And here I'm going to say validate miles driven. Really, if I'm going to use the name of the variables, I should do it like this, I guess. Oh, I guess we just called it miles. So I'll keep it as miles driven. All right. So validate the miles driven. All right. And now all I have to do is, again, put this back in there. So copy, paste that in, tab it over once. All right. So now I'm going to do the same kind of thing, but instead, again, here I'm going to come in and I'm going to input gallons used. All right, and then I want to put another check in here like we just did. So again, I want to validate here. I want to validate the gallons used. And I give it kind of a silly name. It's min gals, min G-A-L-L-S, and max G-A-L-L-S. All right, so again, validate it and grab these two lines again. You can see that what I'm basically doing here is I'm starting to set up, for lack of better words, a lot of patterns in here. Okay? It has been proven that people who have a musical background and or a mathematical background tend to do better in computers. And it's because they're able to recognize patterns. All right, so there's my MPG. Now, where we've got this else one or both entries are invalid, I don't think we need that anymore. There's the while. There's the other while. Okay. There's our miles per gallon. We're going to give out the miles per gallon. So yeah, we don't need any of this anymore. This was in a do while loop that was over here, so we don't need this either. So now we've got our while loop here, which I think can be tabbed one more time. All right, so there's that. And there's everything inside of it. Now, I don't know if I made any mistakes, but we'll find out when we attempt to run this. So this is MPG 2. Now, when it doesn't run, again, typically that means there's an error in the syntax of the language. I missed a paren or whatever. Well, I can already see that, so. Okay. Well, notice I forgot one here. Those two are together. And those two and those two. Trying to see if I missed something here. So that goes together, that goes together, and those go together, and those go together. So I need one more here. All right, now those two map, and I don't think I need this one here. think that's correct. So I'm sure I've got the same thing here. So that, because I just did a copy and paste, that, and that. So let's see if I fixed all the errors. And of course not. All right. So those are okay. Those are okay. Those are okay. Which is good because it gets me all the way down to here. Do while this. I think that has to be here. And that will close the while off. Okay, let's see if that fixed it. Good start. Miles driven 200, gallons used 10, gallons used 10, gallons used 10. Uh-oh. When you get this, sometimes you literally have to get out of here, just so you know. You have to literally close this. So you do a Control-Alt-Delete. You go to Task Manager, and you see where it's running, which is, I think, right here. And you end the task. Alright, I don't know if that was it or nope, that actually was not it. Go to here, can I close the window? There we go. Alright, so it was the gallons used. Min gals, oh, miles. That should be gallons. That's the first thing. That's the problem when you do copy and paste. Miles, min miles, miles, max miles, mile, that's gallons. That's where the error is. Gallons, min gals, gallons, max gals, gallons, gallons. Okay, I'm just looking to make sure I've got stuff lined up here, that's all. Well, it looks like it's okay now. Of course, it looked like it was okay before, too, so. All right. Go back to the HTML file, run, Chrome, run, 210, 20 miles per gallon. Do you want to, it'll let me do it again. Let's put in something that's out of whack. Just asks me to do it again. Asks me to do it again. Asks me to do it again. Good. 300. All right, gallons used. Let's put in something bad. Asks me again. Asks me again. Asks me again. Gives me the answer. Okay? Now, I'm trying to figure out. Shouldn't have clicked that button, I guess. That was stupid. So, when we get down to the end, while again equals yes. We're not asking the user if they want to run the program again. That's the problem. All right. So we need another prompt here. Prompt. Run program again. So we're going to ask them that. And we'll default it to yes, because you'll think, yes, you want to run it more than once. All right, so while again equals y. There's a way to force something into uppercase in JavaScript. So I'm going to type in here JavaScript uppercase. And it's to uppercase. The name dot to uppercase paren. Okay. While again dot to uppercase equals y. Now it doesn't matter if they put in a big Y or a little y. It's going to check for a big Y. So let's try that and see if that works. Let's see. Again, we've already checked, so we'll just keep it 210. There's the miles per gallon. Do you want to do it again? Yes, I do. So it's doing it again. Good. Do I want to do it again? No. And it should have stopped, and it didn't. Oh. Well, let's go back and look. Do again equals big Y. All right, so do run program again. We put in a Y, and while, it's got to say again equal prompt. Okay, let's try it one more time. Oopsie. Cancel. All right, I'm in a loop here again, so I'm going to have to close this. So let's run this again. All right. 20. You want to run it again? Yes. We'll run it again. Boom. Boom. Do you want to run it again? No. And it stops. Perfect. Now, you're going to have to go back. I'll save this, but you're going to have to go back and take a look at this. All right, because I'm showing you alternative methods to the way that the author is, just so you get the full picture, so to speak, and you can start to make up your own mind how you want to write this stuff. All right, so first let me check and see where I am for time. Whoa, I'm way over, so I've got to stop now and start up with part 2.